True love. Beautiful people, we're talking about true love today. What is true love? And when we're really sinking into the word of love and we really feel the vibration that really feeds the word love, there's something else there. We need to take a look at a word that's not usually associated with true love. Hey, this is Rebecca. Thanks for joining me. We're remembering our greatness together. Dive in deep so we can rise high. The idea of awakening and ascension process is all about sustaining our high vibration. So it's one thing to be able to feel a high vibration. It's another thing to be able to walk into a room with anybody and keep it there instead of having it plummet. So what does love and true love have to do with that? So if we're putting a lot of pressure on ourselves to be in love or have true love, we have an agenda and we're actually living from a fear paradigm. So true love can kind of mess up your life. True love can actually create a very emotional life. It can be very triggering. It can bring up a lot of jealousy. It can bring up some lower frequency emotions. And they bring up low frequency emotions because it's letting us know that we've disconnected from our main source. So if we have fear of not being loved or not being lovable or losing love, then all that fear comes from a disconnect that you're always okay and that you're always loved. In fact, you are always love, but perhaps not the love we think. Now, when we are in these human bodies, we are in these roles, right? We are in the nugget of the story of the role that we're playing. So as we awaken, we keep the broader perspective that, yeah, I'm playing out this role, but I'm not this role. This is not who I am. I'm playing it out. I'm having some experience with it, but it's not who I am. And the idea with awakening and ascending is that we keep that broader perspective and we live from that broader perspective in the roles that we're taking and experiencing it. And so if emotions come up, we can be like, look at me. I've lost the perspective of me as source. I've lost that perspective. So we have an emotion come up. So when we think of true love, sometimes true love, when we're really in that giddiness and that present moment of it, it feels so good, right? But then there's those times where it stops feeling good. It feels like, oh my God, what if I lost this? What if this went away? My life would be shattered. I would feel awful. I would curl up in a ball. I would die. I just would want to die if I lost this person. And that's when love becomes fear. So the word that I want to offer you guys around love is neutrality. If we create a neutrality around love, now a lot of times in romantic love and love at first sight or true love, we think about like a polarized attraction, right? So neutralizing that doesn't seem to make sense. However, when we are in the higher vibrations of awakening and ascending, this type of love is actually what works. So this type of love of neutrality means that you love that person so much that you want to see them in their highest. You want to see them grow and thrive and be happy. And even if that means that you're not there in their lives, like you would want that love for them. So the neutrality is like, it comes from the neutrality of not needing them, not having the polarity and this like intense attraction. You actually get to choose the attraction. And so there's a few words here. Let me get them on my notebook. Neutrality, allowance, gratitude, and connection. So when we talk about being in love with a partner, a life partner, or just being in love with life or loving our children, all of that comes from allowance, gratitude, and connection. True love is coming from these things. So if you notice that you're saying you love someone, but you have a certain agenda and they have to show up a certain way for them to be lovable, that is a 3D love. That is a very polarized love. It's not true love. Okay, that love that is higher consciousness, that love that's taking us to the 5th dimension, that love that's unity. Okay, your relationships can help cultivate that on this planet, but they have to be coming from neutrality, allowance, gratitude, and connection. And what do I mean by connection? Well, I mean connection by first loving yourself through source first, through source as source. So connecting and knowing your broader perspective of being, right? Your authentic self is kind of that spark of source energy, and knowing that foremost above everything else, you are connected there. You are loving yourself from there. Now from that, you go out into the world and you love, and you love who's in front of you. You love who you're choosing to be in partnership with. You love who you're choosing to bring to your life through children or work or things like that. So, and you attempt to be an allowance of them, allowance of their own journey, that they have their own awareness that's guiding their lives. And they're not going to be locked in, bound and locked in to a love that's controlling or has agenda or has jealousy or has these negative emotions. Because when you are locked in with someone like that, you get pulled down and your vibration gets pulled down, and then we're preventing our ascension into the 5th dimension. So neutrality, guys, neutrality is huge. Now, 3rd dimension relationships are really built on the polarity of positive and negative, masculine and feminine, all that kind of thing. And the cool part is that David Data Works talks about this. You can choose the polarity. If you're having a partnership, marriage type of relationship, you can choose the polarity. You can actually act out polarity without being being controlled by it. So, say you're coming home from work and you're like, I really want to have like a fun polarized connection. I really want to feel attracted to my partner. Build up the polarity, consciously build up the polarity, and think about, whichever role you're playing. If you're playing the feminine or masculine role, whatever one you want to play, what is your partner usually in? Okay, so amp up the opposite of what your partner's in. Okay, talk to yourself about it. Get rich in like just the fantasy and the play. That's all we're doing, guys, is fantasy and play in this human world. So amp it up, amp that part up, and just go home and play with your partner in that polarity, knowing you are not the polarity. So it's really cool to know that you can amp those things up to have some fun, but that you come back to neutrality. And in the neutrality, that's where you are in complete allowance and complete gratitude and complete connection with Source, which has no polarity. Source has no polarity. There's a part of you right here that is you that has absolutely no polarity. And when we can tune into that neutrality, that's where that unity, love, and consciousness comes in. That's when the polarity, in yoga we call it the Ida and Pingali, the masculine, feminine nature, come into the Sushumna to create the unity. Okay, so we get to play with polarity, but we are not. It's kind of like that saying. Like I'm in the world, but not of the world. I'm in polarity, but I'm not of polarity. It's the same thing. And you'll notice that your loving partnerships start to shift when you're willing to play in polarity, but not be the polarity. And you'll notice that you have more freedom in your relationships, that you're like, yeah, go live your life. Go, oh yes, go on a vacation without me. Go, go do what's comfortable for you. Go do like what's enlivening and, you know, growing your soul, that you would be willing to let that other person be and do whatever it felt called to be and do. That's true love. And it requires allowance, growing of allowance, and growing of gratitude. And so when we are in a loving relationship, we want true love, write pages and pages of things that you are grateful about in this relationship. And then as you are raising your vibration, be sure you ask, I would like to grow my allowance along with my vibration. Because as you raise your vibration, the awareness grows, right? Our intuition just goes, woo! We really get a lot of intuitive hits. We get a lot of awareness of why things are happening, what's going on. And usually allowance is the last to grow. So you want to really ask, I'm asking my allowance to grow in alignment with my vibration and my awareness. You got to bring that up, the tail end, because it's really not fun being in a relationship where you have so much awareness, but not a lot of allowance. So you could be really aware that, wow, that person's wounded here, and there. Wow, they could really clean up. Oh, wow, this is up for them. And it's like, it sucks to have that gift, right? It's like thinking about having telepathy with everyone on a street corner. It's like, at first we think it could be cool, but then you're like, oh my God, turn this off. Like having awareness is kind of like that. Like, oh my gosh, I've had this expanded awareness and I'm aware of everyone's healing journey. And it's like, and if you say anything, you really start pissing people off. So grow that allowance along with your awareness. So then you can just be like, yeah, I'm aware of it all, an allowance of it all. We're all on our journey. It's all neutral. It doesn't mean anything. I'm not getting hyper aware or sensitive. I'm not getting hypersensitive to it. It's not affecting me. Because, as you go into allowance and as you raise your vibration, you actually can stay neutral, that it doesn't have to affect you and you don't have to react from it. And that's a beautiful place to be. And then when you want to amp up the polarity just to have some, sparky fun, you can just, you still have the Ida and Pagala, you still have the masculine and feminine energies that you can run and play. What's happening, I think, in our culture today is we're becoming kind of polarized by it. We are identifying ourselves with the feminine, right? Or the masculine. And that identification is not helping our awakening and ascension process. So stop identifying with your role and stop identifying with the energies that kind of are defined in a role. You are not masculine. You're not just feminine. You are all of it. You are that central channel of unity. You are the neutrality of it. And then you can play both roles. So the more we can let go of the definitions of love, the more we will be more free in our loving relationships. And it's a falsity to say that someone has to play the feminine role, someone has to play the masculine role. I would say let go of all those roles and just be in union together. Be in union together with gratitude, allowance, and connection. And when you want to amp up some polarized fun, then know that that's possible. It's all possible. But personally, I would say find neutrality in your relationship first. Find your flow with each other. And that's this beautiful, new age love, I would say, that neutrality. And You are not just feminine. You're not just masculine. You are the union of both, which creates this neutrality, which creates that Sushumna center, that light channel. Okay, and feminine and masculine energy does not mean feminine and masculine gendering and how that shows up. So that's very interesting too. So kind of going off into it, shooting off into another topic, but so let's recap here. And please, any questions you have about New Age love, modern love, true love, let me know. You know, we're remembering our greatness together. I'd love to hear your comments. So to recap, as we awaken and broaden our perspectives, so does our perspective of love go, and true love. And as we are ascending, we cannot ride in the forms and structures and definitions of 3D love. Okay, so I propose that neutrality is the way of ascended love. And neutrality, bringing in allowance for each other, gratitude, and deep connection into our own center of source and our partner's center of source. And if we want to have some fun with polarity, we know that we can always amp up the energies of different polarities to play, to have some fun together, to go on a date together, to have sexual union together, to whatever it is. If we want to have that polarity of flirting, of that fun, that can be amped up. But it's a huge distraction when you are going into your ascension process and awakening and raising your vibration. So find neutrality and then know that you can play with polarity because you have the awareness to do so. Now, folks that are in 3D form and structure, they are defining themselves with their polarity, okay? So they don't have the choice right now to play with the polarity, play with masculine and feminine, play with the different roles. But when you start broadening your perspective and raising your vibration, you have the awareness that, oh, I'm not this, but I can be it. We can play, we can have fun. And so neutrality, guys. Do gratitude pages on your partner, allowance, and remember that deep connection, not to each other, to source first, and then to source within the other. And so that's true love. That is true love. Beautiful people, what do you define true love as? I'm curious. Let me hear in the comments. And as always, this is what I do. So if you could use some support around your loving relationships, let me know. I do a 30-minute discovery call for free. And I also have different 6-week programs and things like that. So if you want to raise your vibration and raise your awareness around love, come join me. Namaste, beautiful people.